All right, let me just go live. And Instagram, hopefully it lets me go live. Hi. For people watching me on the replay, thank you for watching me. Okay, it's working on Instagram. So I stream live on uh, all social media platforms, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. Pacific Time, where I talk about an issue that we all deal with, and then I think about ways for us to deal with it. And today I want to talk about like our wellness, our like physical health. I'll start off by like sharing like a story I shared it on TikTok. So my name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston, and if you are watching me on social media, I do have a podcast that I've had since 2018, and sorry, yeah, 2018, where I talk to people who are empowering people by sharing their story. But I also come on and I talk about things that we all go through. And then I talk about ways to deal with it. And I always kind of share, when I talk individually, I share a lot from my perspective so that like I feel like, the more that we realize we're not alone or the more knowledge we have, the more that we can actually make changes in our lives. I want to talk about our wellness in general, especially when it comes to medical, because, I think a lot of us are going to doctors and we are seeing doctors for different things. And we're not understanding like what's going on with us. So I want to talk about like the importance of like vitamins and just not taking the doctor's answer of like just go home as the final answer, like really trying to educate yourself and get to the root of the problem. So if you do follow the podcast, I've shared like I got diagnosed with an autoimmune issue in my liver. And so if anybody doesn't know anything about the liver, a dysfunctional liver is like the most suckiest thing that can happen because it can jack up so much of our body. So this was almost 2 years ago. And I take care of my physical, my medical, my mental. Like I'm really in tune with my body. I can tell when something's going on. And I had a like huge flare up 2 years ago where all of my labs were off around my liver. And it caused me to be really sick, right? Since then, I haven't had anything that major. I've really been in tune, but recently, like I started feeling sick and feeling cold, and my bones have been aching. And so I decided to go to the clinic as a walk-in, right? Because I didn't want to just assume it was my liver. I've had swollen lymph nodes in the back of my ears, like just these random symptoms, right? So I went to the walk-in clinic, and so basically they said nothing. They didn't take any blood work, nothing. So I went and got like a liver function panel, and my liver checked out fine. So I'm like, yo, something's wrong, right? It's been a couple weeks. So what I decided to do was I paid and got my own labs. I went to Quest Diagnostics and I got my own lab work just to find out that my vitamin D is super low. I'm going to share my screen. So TikTok, I can't share screens on here, but everywhere else, I'm going to share my screen. And if you are listening to the audio, you can find this on YouTube or Facebook because I want to show you what the lab work looks like so that I can put it into perspective. And I wanted to I added this AC1 count. That's new for me. And I realized like my doctors have never checked my AC1. But also, I want to note that because of this liver stuff, it could be creating havoc in my life. And the vitamin D is supposed to be at least like 30. And look at where it was. It's at 13. And then the AC1. So I know what people have. I've never been diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes, but I do know that when people with diabetes, they say like their vitamin D is low, like could be low, and that they struggle with mood. But then when I found out my vitamin D is low, I started doing research, and I'm like, I wonder if people's vitamin D was low, and it created the AC1 to be high, right? Because vitamin D, like if your vitamin D is low, it can create a lot of havoc in your body, where it messes with the insulin intake and the way it happens, right? I didn't know this. Like, this is stuff that I'm learning, as I'm learning about my stuff, right? And then I want to show you some symptoms of vitamin deficiency. I'm going to read them for people that are listening and can't see. But sleep problems, like literally all of these things, I've been struggling with, exhaustion and fatigue. And so, especially when I'm working with people and they're talking about being exhausted and fatigue, I say you should check and get like a vitamin panel to make sure like you're good, like your foundation's good. Bone and pain, aches, that was me. Muscle pain, muscle weakness. I would have tremors and spasms in my muscles. Mood issues. So there's sadness and depression, right? Mood changes, hair loss, loss of appetite, had a huge loss of appetite, tingling in the hands and feet, and also getting sick easily, right? So I'm looking at all these like symptoms, and there's a lot of symptoms that a lack of vitamin D can create in your body, right? And so, I told the clinic that my vitamin D is low. I went down there, gave them the lab work. They still haven't called, but I took matters into my own hand, because the thing is with doctors is that they go to school to learn how to treat symptoms, right? I've followed a lot of doctors that have changed and gotten into like a holistic point of view. They're realizing a lot of their schooling is not preventative health. It's like, okay, what can we do to work on this? Another thing with the vitamin D that can create deficiency is some medicines that people take. There are some medicines that people take that can kind of block the vitamin D from getting into your body, right? I'm not a doctor, just so we're clear. These are things that I'm learning, and I'm learning from other like holistic doctors that are, they started practicing, and then they're starting to realize like all of these things are happening to people, and they wanted to do things their own way. Some doctors have even talked about how they were trying to like change protocol, introduce like juicing and all of these things to people, and the admin was like, you need to stick to the protocol, right? If this is this, we need to prescribe this, right? And what they were trying to do is teach people how to work on healing themselves through just natural things that are in their refrigerator, right? Because we don't really think that deeply, like, oh, I have a cold, let me get some ginger and lemon. Like, no, we go to Walgreens and CVS, right? We don't think about these things in that way, because like we're taught, or we're brought up thinking about, how do I get fixed immediately, right? And not get to the root of the problem. So I wanted to share that because it's a reminder, especially like Black people in the wintertime, where we're not getting a lot of sun. You may end up being deficient, even if you don't have medical problems, even if you're not taking medication. Sometimes I feel like people think that they're failing, or think that they've been trying. Yes, and drinking water. Yeah, don't forget to drink your water. Think that they're failing, and think that they're not doing enough. And sometimes your foundation is just needs more medicine, needs more vitamins, sorry. And because the foods aren't the same, like years ago, the vegetables we would eat and the things were rich in vitamins and stuff, but because it's not happening anymore, like the soil's not the same, a lot of the ways that they're producing things aren't the same. So even if you have a healthy diet, even if you're eating the things that have the vitamins in it, it just may not be enough. And how do we know until we actually are able to like get the blood work done and find out, right? So if you are experiencing symptoms that you don't understand, like it's so important for you to ask questions, and even ask your doctor, especially if you have insurance, because I ended up paying, I didn't know what labs to take, so I just got all my labs done. But if you have insurance, to ask your doctor to like run a vitamin panel. just so that you can check and see, because a lot of people's fatigue and the things that they're dealing with is hard. So solution, right? So I wanted to talk about like taking care of your physical health, because yeah, I'm a therapist and I talk about mental wellness, but a part of mental wellness and the things that we're going through includes our physical wellness. It includes like what we're eating, how we're moving our body, like all of those things are related to mood. Unfortunately, you will never see a commercial about it where you have a commercial that says, are you struggling with your mood? Are you struggling with sleep issues? Like, they don't say like, oh, what are you eating? What's your stress level? They don't say like, have you moved your body, right? They'll say like, okay, we have this new pill that you can take. And then it'll list like a crap load of like side effects that come along with it, right? It will never ask you about like, what can you do to work on changing it, right? Because even for some medicines, they end up having side effects, which makes it hard for people to take. So remembering that when you go to the doctor, you know, they're doctors, they're there to practice, you know, they're practicing. They be Googling, probably a different kind of Google. They probably got a doctor's Google, but they Google just like we Google, right? They don't really know what's going on, right? So don't always take their, like, it's going to be like, get a second opinion if you feel like it's not quite right, right? Like, I think it's so important for us to do that. And when I had my physical a few months ago, I randomly asked to check my vitamin D. I feel like God was trying to like tell me like, yo, Celeste, check your vitamin D. And she was like, oh, you should be fine. You were fine last time. And I didn't think nothing of it. I wasn't sick or anything. And also it's important to note, you can have a vitamin deficiency and be asymptomatic where it's not showing symptoms, and that's dangerous too, right? So I've never thought to ask. And for some reason, a few months ago, I asked, which was, every time I think about that, I'm like, dang, you should have pushed. But don't let because of what they say, don't let that stop you. Don't feel scared, because sometimes people are scared to ask more questions because they don't want to aggravate the doctor. And I'm like, who cares if you aggravate the doctor? This lady just freaking passed away because they told her she had fibroids and she had a whole cancer that was, you could have easily diagnosed, right? And you know, she was probably like, okay, they said it's fibroids, let me like, but maybe sometimes there's something in us that was like, dang, this doesn't feel right, right? So be okay with asking for a second opinion, because like, doctors aren't always completely right. They're practicing doctors. Educate yourself, you know, when it comes to things that you may be struggling with. You know, there's a lot of information on the internet. And I will say, like, you got to use discernment, because there's a lot of information on the internet, but use discernment. I follow like different people's stories, but I also look at doctors and what because there's a lot of doctors on YouTube that are very like into holistic care, that are educating us about the different things that we should know. And so like, that's important. Dr. Holistic, there's this Black doctor who went from working in the field to like really working on creating his own practice. I share his stuff a lot because he breaks things down where it's like easy to like understand. And so like, I want to say, like, make sure you are educating yourself, make sure that you are getting second opinions, because sometimes, you know, when I think about all of the ailments I was dealing with, all I could think about was like, this is the easy fix. Like, I just needed to get more vitamin D in me. And that it pisses me off, because I went and paid $355 for it. And I know everybody can't just go and get labs and pay $300 for some labs. But because I was so sick and not getting answers and I didn't know what to ask for, I went and paid to do it on my own. And it was a simple fix. And I think I get more mad about people that don't have that privilege to do that, right? Because it's like, okay, I know what I need to do, and I started doing it, and I'm like, my bones aren't doing that thing it was doing. Like, it was shivering. It felt like my bones was like attacking itself. It was so weird. It was a feeling that I never had. It was very intense too. And so I just like said to myself, you know, the next session I come on, I want to help people think about their health differently, so that if there's something going on, start to write down your symptoms, pay attention to them. Don't ignore the symptoms, please. pay attention to the symptoms, and then when you go to the doctor, so that you can feel equipped to ask questions and kind of get what you need. So I hope that was helpful. This episode is going to be on the podcast. If you're not following the podcast, you can go to celestetherapist.com to find the links. It's on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. I'm sorry. It's on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, all of those places you can find the audio where there's so many episodes of me talking to people, sharing their story. And now you have these Wednesday check-ins that I do live where I talk about an issue and talk about a solution. The reason why this podcast was started is because I wanted to help empower people. I wanted people to learn how to get the information that they need so that they can make better choices for them. So I will see you guys next Wednesday. If there's ever a topic that you want me to cover on these Wednesday episodes, all you got to do is go to my website. And there's a box where you can complete and just say like, hey, can you talk about this? And until next time.